Hello friends and welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing a home improvement project that I recently completed in my front entryway. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time, but it took me a while to figure out like what I really wanted it to look like and you know, how to actually do it. So I'm going to be sharing with you all the steps that I did and then how it turned out and kind of like a final reveal. I'm also going to go ahead and share with you now the materials that I used for the project, and I will link all of those in the description box below in case you need a closer look. But I used 1 by 4 by 8 MDF boards for the vertical battens, and also for the horizontal batten that goes across, and you'll kind of see what I ran into in the project with that. And then I also used a 1 by 1 by 8 primed board, and I used that for the kind of the little shelf piece that fits on top. So that was all the wood that I used. And then in addition to that, I used Loctite adhesive. You could really use any kind of adhesive that works for wood and drywall. And then I also used some paintable caulk. I just used white, and I used a caulk gun with that. I also used finishing nails. The hooks that I used for the wall came from Amazon, and I will link those as well below. And then I used paint. So I happen to have the paint on hand. Our trim paint color is Greek Villa, so that's what I use, but I will link all that information down in the description box. I saw on Lowe's where they had shorter boards, which would have actually helped me out, but the shortest that I could get was 8 feet. So that's what I ended up going with, and just cutting down to size. In order to cut the boards, I just used just a simple little saw that I had at my house, and it wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. And I guess the only other thing that I used that I didn't mention is I did use a power sander a little bit, and I used like just a handheld sanding block a little bit as well. So that's what I used. I'll go ahead and take you back through the process, and then I'll show you how it turned out. And then I have a big project that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, something I've been wanting to do for a long time in our entryway. So I'll show you that. I finally got the materials and everything, so I'll be working on that this week. Wood that I need, actually most of that is MDF. And then some of the supplies here that I will need. And so my plan is for now, take down all of this, and I'm gonna do like board and batten on this wall and paint it to match the door. And I think I'm gonna start it fairly high, so like the top rail kind of meets up with this top piece at the door, and go around there. And then I'm gonna come back and put some hooks on that just to have like an entryway area that's like actually built in. So, and I'm just gonna have the board and batten on this wall, and I might continue it with just like one little strip here to the door trim, and then paint all of that like the same color. I was thinking about going around the corner, but I think then it's kind of like, where do you stop? Because Sophie's door is there. So I think this little corner will be plenty big, and it'll kind of take the place of this coat rack here. But while I do love the look of this coat rack, it doesn't hang well on the wall. It has like picture hanger things on the back, so it's constantly moving. It's not very sturdy, and I just want something that's more of a permanent feature. So that is what I'm working on. I am excited that I was able to find primed MDF boards, since I did do a project like this in our bedroom. When I did the project in our bedroom, the tutorial that I watched said to use furring strips. And that was not a good idea, because it's very low quality wood. So you end up with it's just very not even. And I feel like just using the MDF is going to make this project so much easier, because it's gonna require so much less sanding, and it's just gonna be easier from that standpoint. I think it'll have a better look when it's finished as well. But also it's, you know, more expensive to use MDF, but I don't really need a whole lot of wood for this smaller project. So hopefully this will turn out well. The first thing I did was cut the vertical boards, and I just used a handsaw like you see. This was definitely not the best tool for the job. A table saw would have been way better, but I didn't have that, so I just used what I did have. And once I got one board cut, I just used that board to measure the rest. So installing the battens was pretty simple. I just had to figure out where I wanted it, make sure that it was level, or make it appear level if, like in some cases, the wall wasn't perfectly level. So you just kind of have to do your best if that's the case. Then I would apply the adhesive to the back and again, level it again, and then go ahead and add those finishing nails. I just did 3 per board, and it's really important to make sure that those finishing nails do sink so that you don't see them sticking out of the wood. All right, I got the first board up. It just comes up from the baseboard, so that's going to be on this wall here. Then there's going to be a top board across that, and there's also going to be a little top board here as well. So we'll kind of consider the board and batten going from the door frame all the way to this corner here and stopping at the corner where the blue table is. So once I got the 2 end boards up, then I had to kind of do some math and figure out the exact placement of these other 2 boards. Once I figured out where I wanted them, I did go ahead and mark it on the wall so that I could come back and add them easily without forgetting where I wanted them. They ended up being around 11¼ to 11½ inches apart for each of the spaces between the battens. Once the vertical boards were installed, now it was time to add the top board as well as the trim piece on top of that, and I did it the exact same way using the adhesive and the finishing nails. Alright, so the framing part's done. I still need to caulk everything and paint. I decided against doing this little section here just because with that top piece sticking out, I just wasn't sure if it looked good with just the, I'm gonna try sticking it back up there and see. I'm not really sure what that looks like without the top trim, and I can't really put the top trim. I think, well, I guess I could, but I'm just not sure it's gonna look right. So I'm still thinking about incorporating that, and I may still do it. I may try cutting a little tiny piece of trim and seeing what that looks like, but everything needs to be caulked and then painted, and then ultimately I'm also gonna have hooks up here for jackets and things like that. So I was still kind of working my way through this project while I was actually doing it. And at this point in the project, I decided that that top board needed to be wider. Since I didn't have access to a wider piece of MDF, I decided to see how it would look if I just cut some pieces to fill in there and then caulk it to kind of hopefully look like one thicker board when it was all done. Okay, it's 2 days later and all of the framing is done. The boards are all up. I still need to do some significant caulking. I ran out of caulk, but I kind of started here. It just doesn't look very good. And I haven't done anything like against the wall or anything like that. So we need to caulk and then paint, and then I have hooks coming tomorrow. I have 2 different styles. I haven't decided which ones I'm gonna go with, but I'm thinking that I'll put like 1 hook in the middle of each of these, so I have 3 hooks there. I'm not really great at caulking. The caulk does make a big difference because you can see here where it's not caulked and here where it is, so it'll paint a lot better that way. And even on this board you can see like how far I've gotten, so that really will make a big difference. I wish up here that I would have had access to wider boards, because putting these 2 pieces together is going to be difficult to get this to look how I really want it to look, and I don't think it's going to be perfect, but it'll probably be close enough, so that's what I'm hoping. I also have a little bit of a warped wall in this area, so one of the boards sticks out just a little bit more than the other one, so I don't think that's going to look perfect, but it is going to have a hook in the middle of that area, so hopefully once it's painted it'll look better than it does right now. Here's how we're looking with 1 coat of paint. So I'm gonna let this dry probably overnight and then come back and do some more caulking on the worst areas, and then some more sanding, and then another coat of paint, and kind of see where I am after that. So this is how it turned out. I did move forward with this little corner piece, and I think this turned out so much nicer than if I wouldn't have done that. And then I just painted this in the middle to match our door trim. We ended up doing, I was thinking about using 5 of the hooks, but I think in the end, for the size that we have here, 3 worked really well. The sign that we have up there, we already had, so I just put it back up there, and I am extremely happy with how it turned out. It's a lot more functional as far as like holding coats and things like that, because these hooks are now screwed into that MDF board, and they're really solid on there compared to what we had in the past. And I think it also just looks really nice and makes it look more like an entryway. So in our house, when you walk in, you're just kind of into the middle of everything. There's not really a foyer or true entryway, but this kind of defines that a little bit. So I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. All right, y'all, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.